Welcome to Motorcycle Time. I am your host, Joey Baird. Today we are out on the Vulcan900, the Kawasaki. This is a classic LT model. This is a 2007. Today we're going to talk about how great cruiser motorcycles are. Specifically metric cruisers, although I am going to talk about American cruisers, which is Harley Davidson, Indian, etc. Metric cruisers mostly are either Japanese make from the big four, or they're European make. And I'm mostly going to talk about metric cruisers, but it's just cruiser bikes in general. Cruiser bikes are bikes like this one. Big fenders, usually lots of chrome. Sometimes they're all blacked out. Usually they have a very low profile, low to the ground, low center of gravity. And they typically have a long wheelbase. Like I said, big fenders, lots of chrome. Sometimes they have bags, etc., different features. But cruisers in general, and that's kind of beginning the topic today. So we're going to take a nice little ride in the hills, and we're going to talk about that while we ride this cool cruiser. Here we go. Here we go. All right, cruiser bikes are awesome. There will be people who will fight me on that one. There'll be contentious attitudes about whether cruiser bikes are awesome or not. Like I said in the intro, a cruiser bike typically has a low center of gravity. It's low to the ground. It usually has a low seat height. It usually has a long wheelbase. It's usually a heavier motorcycle. They're typically fairly heavy. There are very few very light cruisers. If they're light, typically means they're small displacement. A lot of cruisers have a V-twin engine. That's not universal. There are a lot of cruisers that don't have a V-twin. I say a lot. There are a few notable cruisers that don't have a V-twin engine. And so V-twins tend to be quite large. They tend to be fairly low power for the amount of weight that they are. But they're usually a very easy engine to ride. They're very friendly. They usually have very large, wide open power bands. They're usually a very torquey engine, provide a lot of down-low torque. And so they're usually a real pleasure to ride, even if they're not particularly fast as engines go. They're a good engine that's oriented for the street. Very good for that, which is often what really, I think, where cruisers kind of shine as a street bike that is for, I would say, slower to medium riding. You know, the name is sort of, it says it all, right? It's a cruiser. It's for cruising. Typically, when you go cruising, you're kind of not going at high speed. That's kind of the implication. You're cruising. And that's what a cruiser is for. So will some cruisers handle better than others? Absolutely. There are some cruisers that handle fairly well. This is a medium as for handling. It's fine, right? It's not great, but it's fine. And the reason I say that is because it's a fairly heavy bike, so it's not particularly quick from side to side. And then on top of all of that, it has very low hard parts. So like it has floorboards. Well, those are very comfortable for your feet, and they provide a very comfortable riding position, but they're very low to the ground. And so when you lean the motorcycle over, they scrape, or they can scrape. And that's true for a lot of cruiser bikes, a lot. They typically have very low pegs. They have low pipes. There's a variety of things that could scrape if you really try to start leaning those bikes over hard. And oh man, look at the road right here. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, another thing about cruisers. Because of the body position on a cruiser, the way you sit with your feet forward and your hands forward and you're sitting down on your tush, you don't have the ability to lift your butt up out of the saddle. So your butt has to deal with whatever bumps the road is going to throw at you. So cruisers typically don't really like riding on bumpy ass roads. So if the roads you ride around on are bumpy as hell, a cruiser bike's probably not going to be very comfortable for you, because you can't use your feet to take any of the bite out of the bumps. Your butt is just taking them all. Well, let me tell you, after a couple of hours of that, your kidneys and your tailbone are kind of tired of it. They get tired of it. They don't want any more. And you don't have that same kind of problem when you're riding a dual sport or an ADV bike, because of the body position. You sit different. Now, sitting like this is comfortable because it's a lot like riding a motorcycle that you're also kind of riding like a lazy boy. You're riding like a comfort chair. It's funny. But it's not perfect for every kind of riding condition. So generally speaking, at least in my opinion, cruisers prefer smooth asphalt. They prefer nice roads. They don't really like crappy ass roads. So if you ride a lot of crappy roads, a cruiser bike might not work for you, regardless of who makes it. That part doesn't matter. So another thing that's nice about a cruiser bike is the sounds they make. Typically, cruiser bikes, because of the V-twin engine, although some of the other engines also make some very nice sounds, but V-twins in particular make some of the most, I think, beautiful motorcycle music that there is to listen to. I probably am a little biased about that. The smoothness of cruisers. Not every cruiser is smooth. A lot of people will tell you their Harleys are not very smooth, that they're quite vibey, very vibrational. That probably has more to do with the simple mechanics of the bike and how it was assembled. You know, up until not terribly long ago, Harley didn't even use rubberized motor mounts. It was just a metal on metal motor mount. So, you know, they're going to vibe a little more than other bikes that were using rubberized mounts. And motorcycles are vibration. That's what you're doing. The only way to get rid of the vibration to a point where it's like gone is you need to have an electric bike. That's how you get rid of vibration to the point where it's basically gone. When you're riding a bike that has an engine, like a internal combustion engine, there's going to be an amount of vibration based on the harmonics of that engine that's just unavoidable. And each type of engine is going to have its own harmonics. Another place that cruiser motorcycles tend to shine, and that is for short riders. Or if you're short, whether you're because you're a woman, because you're just a shorter guy, short kings. Cruiser motorcycles have a tendency to have a lower center of gravity and then a lower seat height. And that is going to make them easier to ride for someone who has short legs, just a shorter frame. A lot of, especially ADV bikes and dual sports, but also some sport bikes, they're pretty tall. The seat height is pretty tall. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really haven't covered about cruiser motorcycles and about why they're awesome. This feels very incomplete because it's all just off the top of my head and I'm just spitwadding while I ride. So there's probably things that I've left out, and when I get home and re-listen to all this, I'm going to be like, what the f was I on about? I think another reason why people choose cruisers is the aesthetic. I think the aesthetic of cruisers is one of the strongest aesthetics in motorcycling, right? It's very recognized. Most people, whether you know about motorcycles or you don't know about motorcycles, you recognize a cruiser. Even if you don't necessarily know to call it a cruiser, you still recognize it. You still recognize it as a Harley Davidson, or maybe you call it a chopper, or maybe you call it a hog, or you call it a Harley, or whatever you call it. More or less, though, you know that you're recognizing a cruiser-style motorcycle. And that, in a way, it's kind of an iconic thing. And I think a lot of people want that when they do their rides, right? They want to ride that iconic look. And so there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of aesthetics about cruiser bikes, in my opinion. And I think a lot of people choose cruisers because of aesthetics, because of the sounds they make, because of the way they look. Some people like the classic style with the lots of chrome and the big headlight and big fairings and, you know, big fenders and all that. And then other people, they're not as keen on that stuff, and they like a more blacked out cruiser. Cruisers are a very highly customizable critter. It's part of the appeal with cruisers is that they are customizable. There are add-ons, there are extras you can add. That's some of the appeal. And the ability to make the bike your own, where your bike doesn't necessarily look exactly like somebody else's bike. It's a little more one-off, a little more unique, a little more bespoke even. And I can understand why people would like that too. Bear with me for a minute. This is off topic. Kind of a pretty day today. A little bit on the gray side, but definitely pretty. Yeah, I do love a cruiser bike, and I really do like a metric cruiser. I think they're slept on. I think all the metric cruisers are slept on. I do like cruiser bikes. I'll probably keep this one for a while longer. I've put, you know, close to 10,000 miles on it, or actually more than that now, and I really enjoy riding it. It's a fun bike. Yeah, they're very smooth. They're very easy to ride. They're very, very pleasant machine. Again, you know, some of them that are more vibrational than others, I don't know. And you know, this cruiser doesn't have a lot of fairings on it. You know, it's got the fenders, you know, but it doesn't have a lot of fairings. It's kind of a naked, which is kind of cool. You know, some people like that. Some people like the big fairings on there, and those are cool too. You know, fully dressed bagger, whether it's got, you know, a full touring kit on it, or if it's just got a couple saddlebags. You know, cruisers are a good motorcycle if you want to ride two up. They usually are pretty comfortable for the second rider. Usually they provide some decent leg room and some decent saddle room for that second rider, where, you know, sport bikes often suffer. They're not very good for two up. And ADV bikes are only marginally better. Sometimes they often are not particularly great at two up either, or dual sports. Not like they won't do it, but oftentimes the accommodations for the passenger are not as generous as you'll often find in the cruiser and touring motorcycle space. All right, you guys, let's finish up our discussion about cruiser bikes. My quite long-winded ramble at this point. I don't know if you guys could tell, I like cruiser bikes. I think they're a cool option. I think if you do a lot of road riding and you're more of a relaxed rider, you're not trying to set any kind of like speed records and not doing too much hooligan stuff, and you just want to have a nice relaxing ride, man, a cruiser is a very good choice, and you might enjoy that a lot. In terms of like costs for buying a cruiser, they're all over the place. Metric cruisers can be had for very inexpensive for used models, $2,000–$3,000 sometimes for some models that are still perfectly roadworthy and a very good bike and would yield, you know, years of good riding still. And those are out there for $2,500 depending on where you are. And Harley Davidsons are in a great spot to buy them right now. There's a ton on the market. So that, you know, there's a lot of used bikes for sale right now, and they're going to continue to be that way for the next sort of foreseeable future, I think, based on how the economy's looking. All right, so I think that really concludes my thoughts about cruisers. I'll probably do another one of these at some point, because I'll just want to ramble about how great cruisers are again. So I don't know, you know, months from now I might try another one. But if you enjoyed this very wide-ranging ramble about cruisers, please consider clicking the like button, and if you would like to hear more content like this, please consider clicking the subscribe button. That'll keep you up to date on you know, new stuff coming out and whatnot. And I really appreciate you guys following along. If you made it this far in the video, that's really wonderful. Thank you. And with that, this has been Joe. This is Motorcycle Time, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.